The playoffs begin tonight. On a quest for glory, we'll have a visit to the home of NASCAR to take one step closer to a championship. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to live coverage of the CRL Cup Series from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway and the first race of the 2021 playoffs tonight. Welcome everyone, we are very happy to have you join us as the journey begins now for 8 drivers tonight. And up atop the Charlotte Motor Speedway to bring you the action here in the commentary box, my name is Kenneth Bueno, and tonight will be a different change of pace. We've walked through the regular season, we've had our moments, we've had the drivers win, set themselves up, and now it's down to just 8 drivers to fight in the next handful of races to compete for a CRL Cup Series championship. And so far we've had an illustrious season full of different winners, full of many interesting dramatic moments, and tonight it'll even get turned to 11 or cranked all the way up as we continue through, and now it will be for an even bigger prize at the end of it all. And here at Charlotte, first time we're here this season, and of course another 1.5 miler that we have visited so far in the 2021 CRL Cup Series season. But to bring us a better reference as to where we are in the virtual world, we'll take a look at our KBRN Track Map with our images courtesy of Google Earth. But it's hard to really recognize, or at least hard to not recognize, the historic nature of this very track and the home of NASCAR, Concord, North Carolina, the Charlotte Motor Speedway, 1.5 miles located, of course, and just on the outskirts of the Charlotte area, with banking at about 24 degrees in the turns, 5 degrees on the straightaway, and a quad oval configuration, and the track that has been with NASCAR racing since its opening in 1960. So it has had a phenomenal amount of history. And we were here not too long ago, a couple of weeks back, but we were on the Roval configuration. So we were on the road course, the longer version, the 17-turn version. But now we're just on the plain, simple 4-turn oval that has been pretty much the mark of Charlotte Motor Speedway ever since it began its history. But to take a look at the challenge that these guys will face, or at least the 8 drivers will face when it comes down to mastering this track and being there to put their step forward in the right direction to be there in the championship conversation. Here they are, the 8 drivers that will compete for a CRL Cup Series title. Obviously one of the more dominant drivers this season, Eric Heater, 4 race wins, 1,008 points. Everybody mostly equalized apart from some extra points that they do give out in this season, so he leads them off. Luke Lofaro will be right after him after his win at Texas a couple weeks back. He will be behind him just 6 points along with Lucas Strayer. They are both tied for second, but Strayer is technically categorized as third. But then there's about a 5-way tie actually for the 4th spot with Jesse Atkinson, Brady Floyd, Bryn George, Matthew Oliveira, and Luke Peters. All of them able to slip by through points. Everybody apart from Luke Lofaro and Eric Heater haven't gathered wins. Heater and Lofaro are the only ones to get checkered flags to be a part of these playoffs. But this race will be a very big one, a pivotal race for sure, because we're going to have a 4-race stretch that'll start here at Charlotte. However, it is going to stretch further into tracks like Richmond and other tracks that will also pose different challenges. However, tonight it's all about setting your foot in the right place. If you have a rough night here tonight, you definitely can make it back up. However, you definitely want to put yourself in the right place first, make things well known in the opening race of the playoffs, and then try to build up your momentum from there. And that's exactly what guys like Eric Heater have been doing so far this season. 4 race wins, and arguably the most dominant driver in this series. Took the checkered flag last week when we went competition racing, or actually 2 weeks ago at the Pocono Raceway, the Tricky Triangle, where he actually ended up dominating that race, getting taken out in the middle of the race by a lap car, but then coming back up to win and take the checkered flag. And we're looking to see it no different right now. Top of the charts in qualifying, so at least for now, he's looking in a very good position in terms of what we may see here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But there are the other drivers to contend here, guys like Matthew Oliveira, Luke Lofaro, that have shown strides, especially Lofaro at the 1.5 mile venues, and we talked about his win at Texas. That is his only win this season, and really the place that is rough on the car. Charlotte is more smooth. The pavement's a little better on the cars themselves, but it is still probably a very good note knowing for Lofaro that he'll have a 1.5 mile win in his belt from Texas, and it's kind of the same configuration here from Charlotte. We'll see these Cup cars ride around for 90 laps here tonight under the sunset in Concord, North Carolina, or at least a virtual Concord, North Carolina. Looking at about late afternoon start time to about the night time, and we'll take a look at our weather. 78 degrees in the air, winds barely to the north at about 2 miles per hour. We have no humidity, no fog, partly cloudy conditions, but the track temp will be just a little bit hotter. But as we move through tonight, it'll definitely get a lot cooler as we move forward. Now, for right now, you're watching the drivers set themselves on the grid for our first race of the 2021 CRL Cup Series playoffs, and we'll bring you your starting grid here tonight from Charlotte. On pole will be Francisco Bacalhau, trying to get redemption after 2 weeks ago at Pocono with 29 flat. We'll set him on the pole alongside four-time race winner, points leader going into tonight, playoff driver that is, Eric Heater in the 10 machine on the outside of row number 1. Glenn Bundren will be starting in the 3rd spot, making his start in this series as well, and the 57 of Matthew Oliveira will join him on the outside of row number 2. Luke Lafaro, winner at Texas, will begin this race from the inside of the top 5, alongside Brian Fratian in the 17 machine, starting from 6 with a 29.332. Jeffrey Belk in the 55 will start from 7th, and Jonathan Oates will be rolling off from the 8th spot in the 73 machine in your 4th row. The 9th will belong to Jesse Atkinson at the grid, another playoff driver, starting midst in the top 10, and Zachary Cox making his start just at the edge of the top 10 in the 51 machine. Luke Peters in the 16 will round out your top 11, and Lucas Strayer to the outside of him will cap row number 6 off in the 12th position. Brett Murphy, Bryn George will be up to 14th on the starting grid. Josh Redden will be 15th at the grid as well. You round out all the drivers that have taken time. Guys like Chris Pierce that did not take time. I believe Benjamin A. White also elected to start near the rear of the field, not posting a time here from Charlotte. So that is your entire grid, and as you can see, at least from the front of Eric Heater's machine, that is the playoff banner for the CRL Cup Series. You can see it there, the black and green ones on the side of that banner, along with the win stickers that he's gathered over the course of this year. So if you're looking for the playoff drivers on this grid, you'll notice those green windshield banners. That's where they will be located. That's exactly to distinguish the regular season drivers from the playoff ones competing for a title. So the beat down the back straightaway for the final time. We'll be ready to take things under the green flag for the first time in about 2 weeks. So giving the drivers a lot of time after an off week last week, and now coming back to competition where it all matters most when it comes down to running for a championship. So it'll be Francisco Bacalhau and Eric Heater, 2 Toyota Camrys, and 2 drivers we saw at the front of the field at Pocono 2 weeks ago. Francisco looking for a first checkered flag here in 2021. Pace car makes its way down to pit road. We're happy that you're joining us here from Charlotte, and we are under green for the CRL Cup Series playoffs. Quick to complete lap number 1, Francisco Bacalhau able to surge ahead of the rest of the field, but as soon as they cross the line for lap 2, we have a yellow flag already out on the racetrack. I believe it was near the rear of the field, and it involves playoff driver Brady Floyd in the 20 machine being involved. Significant damage, and Brett Murphy as well with a hard hit and engine damage to his Ford Mustang, already in a hole for Brady Floyd early on in this race. We'll try to take a moment and see exactly what did happen, and it was a very big hit to the outside wall for both of them. As you'll see, this is coming off of turn 4. That is Luke Peters in the 16, gets into him, but I believe it started with the 64 Murphy. You'll see him in that dark blue and red rimmed car on the outside to turn 4, right about here. I think tries to avoid that situation at 3 wide, gets in the wall and goes hard into Brady Floyd. You see one of the drivers there just trying to get things away. That was Chris Pierce in the 25, who actually did sustain damage from that incident, just trying to get by. You'll see it once more, just right in front of the rear of the field. That's where Brady Floyd was. You see him here. It was about where Luke Peters got loose on the bottom of the track. Forced a reactionary move there, and then a hard hit to the 25 of Pierce. even bigger hit to Brett Murphy and Brady Floyd. And now they have to get some damage. There are fast repairs given, or at least one fast repair given to these drivers tonight. So, at least for the situation involving Floyd or Murphy, it won't necessarily be a full-on death sentence. They'll be able to burn off their fast repairs. The only issue is using it so early, only on the first handful of laps of this race. But you did see, as they were coming off of turn 4 for the second lap of the event, Eric Heater had fallen out to the outside, struck the outside wall on the exit of 4, and all of a sudden fell to the 4th spot, losing a spot to playoff driver Matthew Oliveira, who now will lead the playoff drivers. Glenn Bundren, who surged up to 2nd on that start, was able to get to the inside of both of those drivers and surge ahead in 3 and 4, while Francisco Bacalhau was able to hold on to the lead. So under our first yellow, it seems as though nobody's going to go down pit road apart from the obvious, at least a couple others deciding to go down pit road. Bryn George, playoff driver, included. He's also going to take down, I believe he may have some contact to the right rear of his machine, Brady Floyd, getting, I believe, what might be a full-on fast repair for him. So already going to burn this one off early instead of having to wait till later. Murphy going to stake that time down pit road. Now going to get the fast repair. There goes Bryn George off. Brady Floyd still going to maintain time on pit road. Now just refired the engines and is now on his way out. So already some drama to open this race already for playoff driver Brady Floyd. He'll have a mission on an uphill battle to try and tackle this and maybe get some points away. Remember, about everybody is tied, so everybody's mostly on equal footing apart from maybe the handful of the top 3. That's where they're separated by just a handful of points. However, after that, it becomes a completely different scenario, because if you're not able to get the best out of this race here, you definitely could be in a points hole going to the next event, and that will definitely be not the best situation if you're a playoff driver running for a championship. You want to be in the best position possible. So Francisco will lead us to lap 5, and we're looking to see if we'll get lights out on the pace car, and indeed we do. So we'll double them up, go green once more. It'll be the choose cone rule this time by Francisco, will choose the outside line, followed by Glenn Bundren, and the 37 will be one of the only ones to pioneer to the bottom. There's another one going to join him. That is, I believe, the 73 of Jonathan Oates, who did not make the playoffs, but however did pose some great finishes in this series, posed some great runs, and actually sporting a new paint scheme tonight. Now, Mobile 1 colors on his Ford Mustang. I think good to see that under the sunset here at Charlotte. We'll see how he's able to do through the bottom side. And mentioning that iRacing did update recently the track properties of Charlotte Motor Speedway. So like places like Homestead and Richmond, you can now actually use the high line. It is a little bit grippier. It is fairly viable, so you can use it. And over the course of the run, I've heard from a couple drivers that the outside is king. When you get about 5 to 10 laps in a stint, that's where everybody is pretty much going to be until the end of the race, or until the end of the run last. Nobody really wants to use the bottom for the most part. So I believe that's why Francisco's choosing this outside lane. Glenn Bundren, though, going to be striking, though, in the early run. Going to try to look to the bottom, maybe take away the race seat for then, and then maybe slide up ahead to the outside wall and take a look to keep the race lead and defend it. So we'll see what happens. Pace car will make its left down a pit road for the second time tonight, but it'll be our first restart with Francisco Bacalhau and Glenn Bundren at the top of the field. Green flag is in the air, and Francisco leads him away to turn 1. Very good start already for the 30 machine. He'll surge ahead from the 37, having to defend on the 2 drivers behind him, and everybody mostly single file as they head out of turn 2 for the first time. On board with Matthew Oliveira, you see him already gaining all that ground out of turn 4. You'll see him trying to pick up the outside, but no real way to get there at all. Bundren shuts the door to the middle of the corner coming to turn 4, but now it may be too impossible to ignore. Out of turn 2, everybody will head off the 24-degree banking. And Francisco continues to lead this race on. You're seeing the bottom being used up by a little bit from these leaders, and now you're seeing Matthew Oliveira try to rock the top side. Here he is to the outside of Glenn Bundren for the second spot. And you see right around 3rd and 4th, that's where Jonathan Oates and Eric Heater stand. Remember, Heater did follow those positions to open this race. See him ripping the wall out of turn 1 and 2. going to try to get there as hopeful drivers getting loose in a smaller pack behind there where Brady Floyd maintains himself. But you'll see everybody migrate just a little bit. Maybe the middle could be used, but it's mostly ripping that wall where the grip will be there. But the problem will be the tire wear. We've seen tire wear affect the way these cars handle. We've seen it happen so many times in this series, and even then, referring back to our other 1.5 mile race recently at the Texas Motor Speedway, it was a lot bumpier, it was a lot more abrasive, but the tire wear was still key. Here at Charlotte, that is no different. So even though you can run the top, be the fastest around the racetrack, it'll definitely rip up your tires as opposed to running the bottom where you can save a lot more. That may be the risk that some drivers need to take, but as for now, it is the consensus to stay up top as Francisco continues to lead this race on through. He continues to ride through now. Here's Oliveira pioneering to the bottom, trying to make something stick. He won't have the run out of turn 2. This could allow for Glenn Bungeon to try and strike back. He won't. He'll stick back and maybe give him the bumper to push him into turn 3. Everybody, though, single file for the most part. You have to look even way back to where Brady Floyd is sitting, and even then, there's not much battles happening there. There's Bryn George, Brett Murphy, or Josh Redden, rather. Brett Murphy up the road in that Ford Mustang. And Bryn George currently the last playoff driver sitting on the grid, as Brady Floyd has already crept up to the 14th spot. Still no charge in sight from anyone as they continue riding this top groove. Nobody looking to go down low. Everybody's still looking up top. There is Lucas Strayer in the 41, and we talked about him fairly well in the Charlotte Roval a couple of weeks back, along with guys like Michael Rosero and the number 73 of Jonathan Oates, putting up some decent performances on the road course side here at Charlotte, where we visited a couple weeks back, and there was a lot of challenges posed for guys like Strayer, going around a couple times, having some damage, and most of all trying to just get mired back in the field because of those small mistakes. And there comes a big difference. Obviously, when you step into the Roval, it's such a different configuration, but one thing is certain when you go to a track like Charlotte Motor Speedway is that either on the Roval or on the oval configuration, it is not very easy to keep things spaced out between everybody here. This track is known for being a narrow venue, and especially even on the oval side, things can get very tight. And as you see right now, a couple of drivers striking the outside wall, which included race leader Francisco Bacallao, Jonathan Oates, and look at Eric Heater trying to take 2 for 1 on the inside of the middle groove, trying to make something stick. The grip will work up top, and the field will be bunched back. Yellow flag as there's trouble behind them, and it is the 51 of Zachary Cox going around at the front straightaway and bringing us our second yellow. Will come the field to rest. You're probably going to be assuming that most drivers will take a look down pit road. We'll try to see exactly where things began with the 51, and we'll see whether this was a solo car incident. I believe it was. Nobody else involved. You see him riding in front of what was the 55 machine of Jeffrey Belk. You see him actually there. Just gets into the outside wall, swerves the car around. Big hit to the outside barrier. And around he goes. You see Bryn George, Brett Murphy, Josh Redden able to slip by in enough time. They had enough distance to slow down for this as well. There's Brady Floyd and Benjamin White coming by as Zachary Cox just had a moment. And that's what we were looking at. Just drivers getting into the outside wall, trying to run that top groove, but even then, just trying to put the throttle in. Watch on board as Zachary Cox has a moment here in turn 3 and 4. See, it was already an issue in the middle of the corner as he was striking that outside wall and tapped the car very loose. It definitely wasn't a good situation for him whatsoever. But as for everybody up front, handful of drivers decided to go down pit road. But surprisingly enough, everybody within the top 7 have elected to go down. Matthew Oliveira with some damage to his right side. He'll go down. Handful of other drivers looking as well. That's Brian Fretian, Jeffrey Belk, Jesse Atkinson, playoff driver, Brett Murphy, Zachary Cox, Bryn George. I believe Josh Red and Benjamin A. White are 2 others to also go down pit road. So very surprisingly enough, in the first handful of laps, even after the first 15 or so laps, you probably expect drivers to go down pit road. I think for now, maybe some drivers are thinking it is way too early. Just a reminder that if you're joining us here on the KBueno Racing Network for the CRL Cup Series playoffs and you want to join the conversation with us up in the booth, you can definitely do so by using hashtag AskKBRN. You put your question followed by that hashtag. We'll be sure to answer it as soon as we can to the best of our abilities. That's hashtag AskKBRN for anything you want to ask. Riding under the sunset here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, was looking at a late afternoon start. We're looking at about 7 p.m. sim time that we began this race. And the sun will sure to continue to set, and the lights will start to flicker on here from Charlotte. But we should have some night racing to conclude at the end of our 90 laps. So it's still a relatively long way before we even get close to the end of this thing. And we're still going to be looking to see if anything changes in terms of strategy. But as for right now, Francisco Bacalhau continues to hold control from the pole position. Remember wanting that redemption from 2 weeks ago at Pocono Raceway where he started on the front row but then had a moment in turn 1, scraped the outside wall, crashed, and then tried to come back up front, but due to some mistakes, some hits to the outside wall, and of course the tire wear coming into consideration, Francisco fell back in the midst of the top 10. But ever since then, has been looking for a comeback, has put in some practice laps here in a brand new paint scheme, Red Bull, the Toyota Camry that he's run a couple of times in his sim career, but bringing it to the CRL Cup Series in a new modified paint scheme that he has updated recently on his Toyota Camry with Glenn Bundren to his inside. So as for the choose cone, Bundren will again look to the inside, maybe going to look for a better start and to clear himself through and get away from everybody else, and Francisco will keep himself up top. The 73 Jonathan Oates will follow up top as well, followed by 2 playoff drivers, Eric Keeter and Luke Peters, 2 drivers we mentioned at another 1.5 miler at Texas a couple of weeks back, along with Luke Lafaro, who won that race. 3 playoff drivers currently sitting in the midst of the top 10 around the half to ladder portion of it. We'll see how their progress moves, especially as Luke Lafaro is going to be one of the ones looking to the inside of the racetrack. We got a restart here on lap number 18 of 90. Francisco Bacalhau continues to lead with Glenn Bundren to his inside. Jonathan Oates and Lucas Strayer going to round out your second row. A pace car makes its way down. Bacalhau waiting for the gun. He'll jump it now. Green flag back in the air. And another decent start for your race leader. Going to be able to get ahead of Bundren and the rest of the field. Bundren also able to clear for second. Oates able to clear for third as they head to turn 1. And still able to keep pace to the outside. Glenn Bundren looking forward, trying to get some of that draft and the run out of turn 4. But some of the drivers that did go down pit road, that is the first one on fresh tires right about here. The 17 of Brian Fretian. He's on the newest tires in this field, so he's definitely looking in game position. You see him there to the inside of Luke Peters. Now going to hit the crossover, try and move on Luke Lafaro for what is now the 6th spot on the racetrack. He'll look to the inside this time by, so we may have to keep an eye on what he can do on the freshest tires of the field. But right now, Bundren still trying to eye close to your race leader. He's yet to find any ground. We'll see if he'll be able to do so. And just how tough this Charlotte Motor Speedway is, especially running the top of the confines of this circuit. Not easy to really hold it close to the wall without flirting with it and maybe even kissing it a little bit. There's Eric Keeter trying to fend off the Brian Fretian right now on the fresh tires, but it is a hard job to do so. We'll see whether Fretian can shoot to the front of this pack, and he's been using that inside lane, so although he has been on the newest tires, he's using the slowest lane, and he's still able to gain all that ground. Just a difference in how old tires and new tires matter at tracks like these. You see him now to the inside for third, still on his pursuit for the race lead. Has yet to find it. To the middle of the track he'll go, and to the outside to the inside he'll clear. Bundren a tag to the outside wall, and now here comes Fretian for the race lead on lap number 22. And a runoff 2 will keep him eyed with Francisco Bacalhau. He'll stay to the inside. Camry versus Camry to turn 3. Here comes the 17 to the bottom on the fresh tires. And our first new race leader comes at lap number 22. Brian Frantian, your new race leader. Matthew Oliveira, talked about him as well, who did end up pitting at around the lap 15 mark. He's also clawing his way through the field on the inside of the racetrack. Here he is for the third spot under Jonathan Oates. He'll take it away, and for sure will probably edge out with Brian Frantian for the race lead. Remember, he is one of those playoff drivers, so as of right now, passing Eric Heater on the racetrack, he is your current, at least, points leader or playoff leader on the racetrack right now. He'll shoot for second, he'll take it away, and now it's all about whether he'll be able to charge for the front spot. So look a little bit further back. Here's a battle for the 7th spot. That is Benjamin A. White making his first start in the CRL Cup Series. Been around for a while in the Super Speedway Series, but has not made a start in the Cup Series just yet. So good to see him on the racetrack for the first time tonight as he tries to make work of Glenn Bundren up ahead in 6th spot on the bottom. He's another driver that's also on the freshest tires along with your top 2. So again, he's been making that work a stick for now, as Francisco losing the spot even further down to the 73 of Jonathan Oates. Is a quick battle though, 3-car train from about 4th on back, or at least 3rd on back, with Jonathan Oates trying to fend off 2 of the drivers down here, but no fight really to Benjamin White, who's going to be pioneering that bottom and making it stick. As Oliveira now to the inside at a turn 3 and 4 for the race lead. Another new race leader already on the freshest tires, as Matthew Oliveira, playoff driver, will lead him on lap number 25. And you got to think to these drivers just how things will cycle out and if they're expecting another yellow, but at this point, and now as soon as I say it, commentators jinx a yellow indeed does come out. And Brett Murphy, you see him there. Big crash, actually, involving a handful of playoff drivers. There's Cox almost getting into it as well. That's playoff driver Jesse Atkinson, Chris Pierce, Luke LaFaro, Brady Floyd. 3 playoff drivers in a parking lot. Francisco also with a big amount of damage. Oh, what has happened here out of the exit of turn 2? There was a big pileup, and I believe it might have started up front. As you see, here's the battle. This is a battle for about 5th on so. That was behind Jonathan Oates as Benjamin White made his way out. A tag to the wall for both Heater and Bacalhau. You see Bunter making a daring move to the inside for that position. I think right about here, Heater gets into Bacalhau. Goes right into LaFaro and into Peters. And Floyd gets pounded by Priest as well. And they all gather themselves in a large incident. And the steered here once more. It started with Eric Heater getting right to the inside. Here's a touch to the quarter panel, sending him around, and then Bacalhau just trying to gather himself up. Gets into 2 playoff drivers there. And then Brady Floyd sliding in, trying to slow down. And 25 of Pierce also gets involved as well. Zachary Cox also had a moment. You'll see it on board Chris Pierce. And a big hit, just slowing down way too late. And Josh Redden also getting into it as well. You see him go up and over here, tumbling on the racetrack. And he was one of the ones that visited this wreck late. Oh, and a big hit from Atkinson. Gets grabbed by the wall, then gets hit by another driver in Britton George. Oh, what a job by Brett Murphy to slow this thing down. And Zachary Cox to maybe step out of it a lot longer. That was a rough moment there. Try to ride on board with Brett Murphy as this all unfolded in front of him. And stopping right in time to get out of the calamity. And those are all playoff drivers involved in that incident. Eric Heater with damage. Brady Floyd, Jesse Atkinson with significant amount of contact. At least Atkinson will stay out on the track. Floyd with more damage. We saw him burn that fast repair to open this race. He won't have it anymore. He'll have to use all of that time down pit road. Luckily for guys like LaFaro, they do have that fast repair to their advantage. So they will get it this time by, at least on that occasion. And word from the officials, playoff driver, again, Eric Heater has been penalized for the cause of the incident. He'll put at the end of the longest line. And I believe here he's going to go down pit road all by his lonesome. He has some damage to the front end of his machine, but it isn't too much to probably hurt him too badly. And Francisco Bacalhau, yeah, stuck on pit road. No option to the fast repair, I believe, did end up towing at the end of it all. Luke Peters also with damage. But for these drivers, it is not the way you want to start off your playoff run with an incident like that. And it certainly makes things a lot worse for them moving forward. But for guys like Matthew Oliveira, it is probably the best sight he's seen all night long. He'll be leading this race back to the green flag. Chose the outside on the choose cone. And Zachary Cox is really one of the only drivers to go to the bottom. Jonathan Oates, who did pit that last time by, has also chosen the inside. So watch for him to take position on the freshest rubber of the field. Brian Frentiano will be on the outside of row number 2. There's Jeffrey Belk behind them and Lucas Strayer, Jesse Atkinson, Luke Lafaro, Glenn Bundren, Bryn George, Brett Murphy, and Chris Pierce in the 25. Currently the drivers that are on track in line at this point. Redden, we'll see if he's able to get himself back in the fight, or anybody else for that matter that were involved in that incident. So a big crash sending multiple drivers to the pit road area, mostly to the garage as well. As Oliveira will lead us back to green on lap 30 of 90. I reckon with the early wrecks we've had, there's still a very long way to go. Pace car back down pit road. The Camaro and Mustang, the 57 and the 51, back up the gears and back under green from Charlotte. Quick start again for Matthew Oliveira, but a big fight ensues behind them. Jonathan Oates trying to pick his way through the field. Everybody going ahead of Zachary Cox, who was down in the second spot to the green flag. As one car is loose, that's Lucas Strayer, but he's able to keep it straight, and a miraculous save out of turn 4. Luckily able to keep it gathered, but a couple of the drivers will try to take position away, including Cox, maybe looking his nose to the inside. Meanwhile, Jonathan Oates ripping the bottom, trying to get the freshest tires to his advantage. He'll try to get back to the inside, make things work as Oliveira will work up top. Now Luke Lafaro under fresh tires as well. He's pouncing for third, and he'll get it away from the 17 of Brian Frentiano. Will take it away this time by, and now here comes Jonathan Oates for the race lead into turn 1. Two have seen competition within each other for the past handful of weeks. Now Lafaro putting his name into the ring. He's also looking through to the inside. Oliveira has no shot but just to keep himself up top, as Lafaro maybe tags the apron a little bit there, gets the car a little bit loose, but he'll keep forward for second and try to chase down your current race leader as Jonathan Oates takes it away. We talked about Jonathan Oates' performance in the past handful of weeks, including his performance at the Charlotte Roval, and the way he's been able to perform well on the road courses, and now putting his name, not in the playoffs though, but running against playoff drivers for position. Now Luke Lafaro going to duck his nose in, and as soon as that happens, the field will be strung once together under a caution flag, and it involves Brett Murphy and Benjamin A. White. Actually, no, that's Zachary Cox in the 51 involved. There's one of the orange Ford Mustangs involved, so again, these two collected. We're not even halfway through this race just yet. We'll take a look at the replay, see exactly what went down. And this is out of turn 2. I believe this was the cause of the 51. Again, getting in the outside wall. We saw this the first time on a single car incident. I believe he gathered somebody else in the mess as well. You see him there to the outside wall. Gets to the inside of Murphy. A big smack to the barrier for the 51. As the 64 gets a little bit of damage, but still gets some of it. You see it right there. Contact with the 64. And just another case of kissing that wall and then just trying to take it off, going to the left, and then especially the 64 coming up at the exit of the corner, just trying to make the speed continuous. And the 51, as Zachary Cox gets put in another tough spot with big damage. He'll be down pit road. But as according to the officials, considering the fact that he did get an end-of-line penalty that last time by, he will be held for 1 lap. And another tough penalty, but it's already been a rough night for so many drivers here tonight, as Jonathan Oates will continue to lead this race. And him, Luke Lafaro, Matthew Oliveira, Lucas Strayer, Glenn Bundren occupying the top 5. Nobody behind them have elected to pit, as Oliveira and Frentian have some of the oldest tires in this top 10, along with Jeffrey Belk. They're the only ones who pitted about 19 laps ago, and have not decided yet to go down pit road another time by. So you remain under yellow for the third time here in the CRL Cup Series in this race from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll take a moment and step aside, but you won't miss a thing here in the KBueno Racing Network. You're watching the playoffs in the CRL Cup Series from the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
I am here and now, where stories you pass down are born. I am where drivers become legends, and legends become the new kings. I'm where nothing's impossible. Even a champion rising again in Phoenix. I'm moving forward, and if you really try, you can catch me. I am NASCAR.
Coverage of the CRL Cup Series on the KBueno Racing Network is brought to you by iRacing. Join thousands of sim racers across the world and start your sim racing career today at iRacing.com. And by Supermix, concrete blocks on demand. "35 laps complete here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway at a gorgeous sunset view in the virtual world, where Jonathan Oates continues to lead this race under, yet again, once another yellow as we bridge forward to the halfway mark of this race. We've again had big incidents involving multiple playoff drivers. Just got a word, though, from the officials. Mentioned it just before we went to break that the 51 of Zachary Cox will be held for one lap as a result of causing two incidents already. Created that first incident all by himself, and then collecting Brett Murphy a second time around to bring us under this most recent yellow. As a result, updated drivers from Luke Peters got his fast repair, but he is one lap down. Brady Floyd also with repairs as well. He already burned his fast repair to open this race on lap 3, so he's going to be put 14th on the starting grid. Francisco Bacalhau not yet with damage fixed. He's going to be all the way back in 18th spot, 10 laps down. Bryn George saw him involved as well. He picked himself back up, got the fast repair. Now he's back to 11th on the grid. Current driver leading this playoff run at this moment is Luke Lafaro in that number 54 machine, who'll be starting on the outside of row number 2. So Oates picks the outside on the choose cone. Lucas Strayer will have a shot to the inside of row 1. A shot to clear himself for the second spot. Glenn Bundren back in the top 5 as well. Eric Heater also making his round through as well. Matthew Oliveira. About all three of these drivers, playoff drivers now, heading into this one. So we'll head off of turn 4, have a restart at almost near the halfway mark of tonight's race at lap number 38. Still happy to have that you're joining us here for the CRL Cup Series so far, as Oates will bring us back up the gears. Pace car is down, and to his discretion, the 73 will hit the loud pedal. We're back under green from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and easily able to take about a handful of car length lead over Lucas Strayer, Luke Lafaro, and the 37 of Glenn Bundren. Things get very close between them as they almost door in a 1 and 2, but they continue themselves through. They'll be almost about 3 wide for position. Bundren holding strong to the bottom. He'll have that move, but here's a push to the outside from Luke Lafaro. Remember, we saw everybody on the fresh tires using that inside lane. We've seen most people run the outside for the longer runs. And it surely has been the case so far as Strayer continues to try to hold position. Now he'll go for even more ground for the race lead. He'll shoot for in turn 1. Not going to be enough. They'll be side by side. Oates all the way in the other end of the racetrack. And he'll get the run out of turn 2. And they continue to work through. Lafaro now going to fill that gap to the outside wall. And will have a chance to grab for second and be the only playoff driver in about this top 3. As you're on board with Strayer, still holding strong, but a contact between the two as Strayer goes around to the inside grass, and no caution will be thrown as he's spinning underneath the racing surface. We will stay green as Heater with more contact to the Camry, but fighting for the race lead off turn 2. And now Glenn Bundren trying to tuck himself to third on the outside lane. And just how strong the top of the racetrack is with the banking almost looking 3 wide goes Lafaro. As Eric Heater will push his nose out front, and I'm not sure who led that lap. I believe Oates might have had it by just about an inch. Actually, Heater got it that last time by almost 3 wide for the race lead as Heater continues on and almost contact with Jonathan Oates. 2 by 2 as they are breaking away from everybody in the top 5. Oates still trying to carry that momentum. You're right on board as a complete lap number 41, and we are still not even at our halfway mark in this race. And they continue to fight. Is it the last lap? Eric Heater now trying to rock the bottom once more. And remember, we're seeing drivers just slide up the track at the exit of the banking. Things get so tight here at Charlotte, especially with the way these Cup Series cars handle. You have that downforce and some of the low power to help you out and get throughout this racetrack. But remember, you do have the tires underneath you. So as the grip will fall off, the car will continue to stop responding. You'll get a lot of the understeer, and especially you can wash up the track and have a moment with the driver up to your outside. You saw Lafaro try to peek his nose under for the second spot, but had no success in doing so. These are 2 playoff drivers mired in the top 4, and him and Glenn Bundren now in a tight fight. Watch everybody behind them in the top 6 or so. They were about 3 wide as Brett Murphy found his way through Oliveira, and that's Luke Peters in the 16 is about a lap down. They're not for position, however, still miraculous to see. And there's a longer line even back to Bryn George following through as well. There's Josh Redden who went around 1 lap down as well. He's fighting for a lucky dog position along with Luke Peters. Remember, saw the 28 just go up and over, getting grabbed by the wall and getting sent out almost to the moon on that occasion on the wreck out of turn 2. But as for now, the 10 of Heater still trying to pounce to your race leader. He's looking for the charge up top now, but you'll see as you see the 73 just trying to do it there to turn 1, just blocking that little bit amount of space. You can try to peek your nose in, because if you try to get the outside, you'll have the run at any corner on this racetrack. That's exactly what the 73 Boats does not want to see. So he has to force everybody to go down low to give him a shot, but he knows that they won't have the run to the inside, so then he'll be able to defend up top and be able to keep position. As I think things have strung out between the top 4, but they have broken away from everybody else behind. Benjamin White is slowly the driver trying to catch up to these 4. And you've seen that last time by just a little bit faster, and actually remarkably quite faster, 3/10 quicker than everybody else up ahead of him that last time by. They said about 30.4s around that area, 30.3s, while Benjamin White last time by said a 30.1. So that tells you just how rough these guys have been running up at the front of this field. And this is a pure example of just that. As you see White just trying to hold on to the car. This is a little bit tight coming off of turn 4, but he is slowly reeling in the back bumper of Luke Lafaro right in front of him. So they continue to run for position. A couple of them try to the outside wall, and they may be approaching lap traffic here. So sooner than later, we may have an even bigger battle on our hands as they try to get around the drivers that are slower. Still now, Heater trying to put that pressure on Jonathan Oates, but even out of turn 4, Glenn Bundren had to run for just a slight margin, trying to make it work underside, but just could not make it work. Everybody up top, that's where you want to be, and the general consensus that things will fall through. Remember, these drivers may have to make one more pit stop before this is all said and done, considering the fact that they do have 75% fuel. They have about 3 extra tire sets. Some drivers have already wasted that in these opening yellows. So they have to strategize the way that they use these tires, and especially when they'll use them as the night begins to fall. Remember, the grip will go up as the track will begin to cool. But even then, there's still a half of racing to go. There's still a long way before we get to the checkered flag to conclude the first race of the CRL Cup Series playoffs. And even then, that'll pose a bigger challenge for the guys at this point, because now comes the question of when do you pit. We've had yellow sporadically change the way this race has been affected, but if it continues to remain on a long run, it may be even worse for these guys up front. But now Eric Heater finally, after laps and laps of attempting that move up top, Heater will finally have the room to make it stick. Oates trying to defend a slide job up to turn 2, but it won't necessarily work too much. At a crossover from Eric Heater, trying to make it work at about lap 50, did not stick by. And we'll try to push him close to turn 3, and we'll push him all the way close to the outside wall as they continue to run through. Bundren and LaFaro trying to eye on the battle as Benjamin White still even further behind on this group. And things have spread forward mostly between the top 5. Here's another battle between 8th spot. That's Jeffrey Belk in the 57 and Matthew Oliveira. There's 2 playoff drivers behind him. Bryn George, Jesse Atkinson, Brian Fretian in this group as well. Josh Redden, who's caught up to this handful. And there's Brady Floyd with damage behind, just a little bit slower, as Oliveira not enough ground to work on the outside. He's losing ground merely on the older tires here. Remember, he did not pit. He continues to remain in the rear of the field as you're on board with Eric Heater. Still the outside, not enough to grab the race lead away. He may have the run off of turn 2, but quite not possibly just there yet. Now he'll clear, so Eric Heater back to the race lead. Oates still trying to push it forward to the blue and white line. And he's still keeping that ground, at least for now. And now Eric Heater comes to the race lead finally. He'll be able to take it over and lead a couple laps of his own. Well, it has been close between these top 4. They have really not let up for the most part, and they continue to remain close together on the racetrack, so at least that may be some good news for them. And just trying to make things stick, trying to make things happen over the longer run, but still about 40 laps to go, so you still have another question as to whether you'll have to pit at least one more time, and when will you pit. We've seen most of the time at Texas, that's where we saw strategy coming at an all-time high. The only thing that really changed it was a green-white checkered run to the end of the race. However, it was mostly a green flag stint that brought everybody together and pretty much changed the dynamic of this race, where you were able to see change of position. You were able to see drivers do the undercut, drivers go for the overcut. And even then, you're probably not at this point of the race where you're going to go down pit road, but the only problem is you're going to have to go there at least once before the race is all said and done. So how close do you want to cut it? Do you want to go about 35, 20 laps until the end of this race, or do you want to go to 15, 10 laps in this race if you can stretch it that long? And if the leader especially cuts it forward by about 5 laps or so, that could even cut things closer to the end. They will be good on fuel, but the only problem will be track position and tire wear. Whether everybody on the undercut could save their tires in enough time, or whether everybody behind who pit later decide to surge forward, take over in net position, and be fine to the end of the race and hold on to try and catch this win. Remember, Eric Heater, a driver with 4 wins this season and a driver that has been on a hot streak ever since the start at Daytona. Won about 2 races in a row, Michigan and here the Charlotte Roval, and then picked up a win as Dover and at Pocono 2 weeks ago, and is looking for another straight win. And so he continues to ride forward. Top 4 have spread around. Luke LaFaro has caught up to 3rd, so he has gone by Glenn Bundren. And Bundren just succeeding right now, maybe losing time to the guys that are battling now for the 5th spot. Or at least battling on the racetrack for what is a change of hands. Luke Peters 1 lap down, getting by on the fresher tires to Benjamin White, who's holding on to top 5. You can see the large gap between White and Jeffrey Belk, who's just now exiting turn 2. As there's a nice battle even behind them. Bryn George, Jesse Atkinson, 2 playoff drivers that we've talked about just a handful of times throughout this season. Bryn and Jesse have had some issues this season, but most of their consistency has given them a run right now to where they're able to compete for a championship. They are tied for the 4th spot with a handful of others, so they are not completely out of this yet. And with the way that guys like Brady Floyd and Luke Peters have had playoff nights. It has not been the best for them. This could be very well for these guys to gain some well-needed points ahead and make a statement going to the rest of the playoffs. There's about 4 races in there before you get to the final event. That's what things certainly change. But last time by, been looking at these two in the top 2s. They've also spread away from LaFaro and Bundren. They have been setting relatively clean laps and relatively close laps between each other. We've seen Oates and Heater at about the same moment on the racetrack. It was a 31.273 last time for Heater, a 31.256. But now looking to third, 31.194 for the Toyota Camry of Luke LaFaro. So he's also been putting laps down even on this longer run. And he may have a chance to catch up. The only problem is catching a driver is one thing, but completely passing them is a whole entire different ball game. Has been watching these three the last time by, have now clipped 30 laps to go on the racetrack. There's Brett Murphy, Brian Frentian on fresher tires. They have been trying to get around these two as Murphy just a little bit loose this time by. You're right on board with him, and take a bit of the sound of how things work here in a long run from Charlotte. Murphy falls back. There's Josh Redden. Redden maybe in the clutches there as Frentian, George, and Atkinson have pulled away. They remain in a 3-car battle for that 6th spot. But meanwhile, top 2 continuing to spread away. Now Luke LaFaro setting slower laps down, so he's now catching that dirty air. And even here in Charlotte, we've seen the way that places like Atlanta and places like Richmond, places like Homestead, Miami may have those 2 lines that you see maybe all the way to the bottom of the track or all the way to the top, where you can kind of make things stick on longer runs. Here at Charlotte, they've made it in the track properties to where the outside is just so dominant that running to the bottom is kind of slower all the way on the exits, and you're not really able to get that run. So if you're able to rip the wall, you'll be able to get the fastest laps on the racetrack. But if you run the bottom, the car just does not want to respond. You get very tight, and all of a sudden, you'll probably have a tough time getting around the track and could have some meetings with the outside barrier. As Heater now is slowly approaching some lap traffic. I believe the next car ahead is, I believe, Zachary Cox. There's Glenn Bundren making a call, this time by to pit. So as we were talking about how close you want to take it to strategy, Bundren is going to take it the earliest out of them all at about 27 laps away from the end of this race. So Bundren going to try to use an early strategy. He pitted from the 4th spot, so hoping to cycle all the way back to P1 if he's able to make up all of that distance. And now it'll be about whether anybody else will pit in enough time or whether anybody else will elect to go down pit road. We saw one other driver do so. There's Francisco Bacalhau, who's currently on pit road, still with all of that damage and frustrated after the end of this one. As he's been walking through, there's Jeffrey Belk stepping into the top 5 for the first time tonight. Haven't talked much about the driver of that 55 Toyota Camry, but we have seen him a handful of times throughout this season. Remember seeing him as a part of the Bristol race and some of the other events earlier in this season. So good to see him back and taking away that spot from Benjamin White, and now stepping into the top 4 with a chance to maybe maximize this pit road strategy if he's going to do it. But so far, nobody electing to pit at this moment. I believe we have one driver right now down. That is the 57 playoff driver of Matthew Oliveira. So again, just like Glenn Bundren, he's electing to take this strategy early and try to stretch it to the end of this race. But as he's down pit road, a caution comes out to bring us under rest. And that may be an even worse situation for the driver of that 57. We'll try to see exactly what happened, but there doesn't seem to be anybody in peril at this point. Try to take a moment and see exactly what happened. I believe we may have found it. Here it is. And once again, involving Zachary Cox getting into Brady Floyd. And this is turn 2 where it happened, about turn 3 where the contact is made. Right about here Seeing them both meet each other. They go slide down the racetrack, but then back up he goes. And boy, what a rough night it's been for the driver of the 20. We've seen him with so many consistent finishes throughout this season, but tonight he's been a part of a lot of trouble. And to start these playoffs, this may be a negative outcome in the final segment of this race as even more damage applied. And again, mentioning he did get that fast repair, so he's now pretty much stuck with all the damage he maintains at this moment. He'll stay out. But meanwhile, everybody else in front on the lead lap will elect to go down pit road, so this could potentially be the final strategy call of tonight's race. As here's a 10 down pit road. There goes LaFlaro, Belk, Oates, everybody else as well. And I believe some other drivers have elected to stay out. Glenn Bundren is one of those, but he was put a lap down, so he's going to get a wave around and try and stay out this time. Don't believe he's got any tire sets left on his race car, but watch the battle off pit road first. Jonathan Oates able to squeeze away from Eric Heater. And Jonathan Oates taking over what may be net P1 next time by. Heater may have stayed a little bit on pit road to get some of that damage fixed on the front end of his machine. LaFaro out third, Jeffrey Belk out fourth. Benjamin White concludes the top 5. Everybody going to be back under rest as Jonathan Oates will take over the race lead. Bring us back into green what may be lap 70. Coming to the final 20 laps of this race. Oh, it has been a wild night for numerous playoff drivers, and Brady Floyd getting quite possibly the worst of it. As there goes Floyd. There's Redden down pit road. Oliveira is a lap car, so he'll be sure to get a wave around when we get the 1 to green signal. There's the 51 this time by. Also getting a wave around. It's been a rough night for him as well. As Oates will hold on to the lead and will take another wrap around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Coming to the final 20 laps of the CRL Cup Series, first race of the playoffs from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where Jonathan Oates continues to lead the way, and we'll have a dash to the finish in the final 20 laps. Don't go anywhere. We've got more coming next, where you're watching all the coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Back live from the home of NASCAR, the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where we are about to go green on lap number 71 of 90. What could be our potential final run to the checkered flag for race 10 of the CRL Cup Series in the first race of the 2021 playoffs. Pace car down to pit road. It'll be Jonathan Oates at the front row with Eric Heater on fresh tires, and we're back under green from Charlotte. And quick to the gun he'll go, just like it's been all restarts in this race. Oates able to snag away a couple of car length lead over Eric Heater, but the fight persists for position behind. There's Eric Heater trying to defend and get the draft off the race leader while Luke Lafaro tries to put that pressure on. Here's Brian Fretian to the inside of Jeffrey Belk and Lucas Strayer that is running for the 4th position as Belk tags the outside wall. And here's Fretian trying to put his nose in as now Eric Heater will look for the race lead. Almost contact between the two leaders into turn 1. Still wedging forward, a slide job from Eric Heater, but a crossover by the 73 of Oates. Will be back to the inside, all the way down to the white and blue line into turn 3. Oates in the Ford Mustang trying another slide to the front of the field, but it won't work. Eric Heater still with a run off the 24-degree banking contact between the two leaders, and they're around. Heater to the outside wall. Oates hard on the brakes. Caution waves at lap 73, and all of a sudden, the two leaders aggressively fighting for the top spot end up in trouble with your playoff leader with significant damage to his car. Can you believe it? And it was coming off turn 4 where they'd been trying to pinch each other. They had made aggressive moves. That crossover off turn 2 to help as well. And we'll try to take a replay as to where this all began, but you saw it right at the front of your screen as to how it all unfolded. Take a look here into turn 3. This is the fight for first. As Oates goes to the inside, tries a slide job, does not work. And then Heater makes a space through on the outside. And then all of a sudden, they get into contact. And they go around. You'll see it right about here. Heater comes off turn 4, gets a little bit in the 73 into that right quarter panel. On the right rear, able to just tap it just a little bit as the space was just falling away. And we talked about the confines here at Charlotte. Things feel so narrow at this racetrack. And Eric Heater going around with Jonathan Oates, and Oates luckily able to hold the brakes on. So he's able to maintain himself with minimal damage for the most part. Does get hit to the outside wall, but Heater ultimately gets the worst of it. And even worse, oh, Zachary Cox and Josh Redden almost getting pieces of that. At the end of it, take a look with Josh Redden as this was right as it happened in front of him. Whoa, so close. And then even then, almost hitting Jonathan Oates on the right side. Could have been ping-ponging his way. And then almost, well, it could have been very worse. The driver of the 28, but for everybody else, maintains differently for now, as that will cycle the lead to Luke Lafaro in the 54 machine. And so try to get a word from the officials. We'll see if anything changes between anybody in the top positions there. There are no penalties, though, given for Heater or Jonathan Oates. There's Heater burning up his fast pair. Bundren with significant damage, and I don't think Bundren may have been involved in this incident, or an earlier incident here. Doesn't seem to be the case for him. And actually here, right about here, we'll see. This is a separate incident even further behind the field. This is Glenn Bundren, who's currently sitting 15th, but was riding in the midst of the top 10 while this happened. I believe it was a contact happened right in front of him. You'll see him there slide to the inside grass. And at least for then, it's safety to the end of it, but then gets that bump and then hard into the inside wall, and then even more. And Jesse Atkinson also had trouble as well with that bump, going about full speed. And gets that bump right there with a curb start. And he's already loose on the racetrack. Well, luckily for Atkinson, gets no significant damage. But for Bundren, it's even worse. And now he may be put out of this race as well. But what an insane level of circumstance we've seen in the final 20 laps of this race. And now Eric Heater and Jonathan Oates get put in tough positions here. Luke Lafaro, we mentioned him, a playoff driver, a winner at the last 1.5 miler that we visited at Legacy, Texas. And now with a potential shot to grab his second 1.5-mile win of the season and potentially put himself in further stance and make a statement on the rest of the field in the playoffs. Well, just to remind you, as we complete lap number 76, that coverage of the CRL Cup Series on the KBueno Racing Network is presented by the NASCAR Geek, where they talk all things NASCAR. Join them for weekly coverage of new paint schemes, throwbacks, recaps, and general discussions about America's most popular motorsport. You can check out all of their content and follow along there on their Instagram page. That is at the NASCAR Geek. So remain under yellow. So far, the instances, nobody going down pit road apart from the drivers who were involved in incidents, as Jonathan Oates actually pitted that last time by. So he's one of the only ones to go down pit road, along with Zachary Cox, who has maintained there and I believe got his fast repair at a clean Ford Mustang. Francisco Bacallao also out, albeit about 47 laps down on the racetrack due to his incident earlier tonight. It was a promising run on the pole for that 30 machine. He was never able to get it back, and now just trying to run around, trot to the end of this race, and maybe have some sort of comeback here. Maybe grab some laps back and just try and finish this race. That usually is the case. Drivers being put in those situations so many laps down where they're not in contention for the win. But the biggest part for them is just pretty much finishing the race and surviving to the end. That's the biggest key there for most of them. And for Francisco Bacallao, it's going to be all about finishing this race and at least making it to the checkered flag, completing a race, even if it means he's far back in the running order. So we'll get a green flag restart on lap 78 of 90. And interesting enough, Luke Lafaro decides to opt for the inside lane on the choose cone rule. Brian Fratian will be to the outside of row 1. Luke Peters and the 41 Lucas Strayer will be behind them in row 2, followed by Jeffrey Belk and Matthew Oliveira. Some of the handful of drivers in the top 5 that are running for a playoff position are Lafaro, Peters, and Oliveira in this top 10. And then followed by Bryn George, Jonathan Oates, Jesse Atkinson, and Eric Heater back to the top 10. We'll see if they're able to climb their way back from where they once were. Pace car going to find itself down pit road. Lap number 78 will start here with Luke Lafaro at the head of the field. Green flag is back in the air from Charlotte. And again, another clean sail for the race leader, but Luke Peters, who was once one lap down, now has a shot for the race lead. Lafaro blocking all the way to the inside to make sure, but Luke Peters running the wall, may have the run on the outside of turn 4. Now Lucas Strayer looking under for the 3rd spot. It's no run just yet for the 16 of Peters, but he'll try to hit the reset button next time by as they remain door to door for the 4th spot, or the 3rd spot rather. Fratian still working the outside, as Oliveira on the fresher tires will also try to punch his way through. Eric Heater now up to the 6th spot as Jonathan Oates fights for 7th. But up front right now, it is all Luke Lafaro right on board with the driver of the 16. And we didn't really talk about him much all race long. Had been mired back in the field, got put 1 lap down on the racetrack, but got that lap back, and ever since has put himself in a position with just over 10 laps to go to potentially win this race. And nonetheless have a shot at a good finish. Not enough of a run that time by as Lafaro tries to strike and defend out top. Now Fratian might have a run with Oliveira behind as they work the middle of the racetrack. Nobody really yet holding onto the top groove. And top 3 have slowly spread away. It's side by side now. Oliveira and the 41 working together for the 4th spot. Lafaro been in this situation before. We saw him at Bristol with a chance to win at a short track. Didn't get it. Got turned around in the final lap. Then got revenge back at Texas, leading a green-white checkered attempt, making the pass on the last lap in the last corner to take his first win of the season, and coming into this race in the top 5 in points. And with the extra advantage that the 54 has had, this could be another shot to put himself further in the championship conversation if he can hold on in the final 8 laps of this race, unless a yellow comes out. But watch Eric Heater now. He's up to the 4th spot. Remember, he's on fresh tires with Jonathan Oates. We saw it before with Brian Fratian and the driver up top of the 73. The 57 of Oliveira on fresh tires, able to surge ahead in the final 10 laps. So it's not all said and done for these two competitors that did get involved in an incident that last time by. Now here's the move for 3rd. Here's the 10 of Eric Heater to the inside. He'll make quick work of Fratian, and now it's all surge ahead for the top 2 leaders. And you can almost sense the pressure that may be given to the top 2, knowing that the 10 has the freshest tires out of all of them so far. And it's going to be all about whether they can hold their line, because we've seen Eric Heater being able to work that bottom groove. And especially since these two are playoff drivers, this could make things even worse when it comes to defending for the race lead and for the race win at that. Top 4 now breaking away. Fratian under pressure from Lucas Strayer. That is a battle for top 5 on the racetrack. There's Strayer now using the outside lane to his advantage. LaFaro trying to duck low. A big shove by the 10 of Eric Heater. And he'll try to make that move stick. Give a shot. Not making the pass yet. Peters trying to duck down low. Now here comes Heater to the bottom side of the racetrack for the 2nd spot. And even more, he'll dive. Up the racetrack he'll go. Maybe trying to tuck behind your race leader. LaFaro a little bit loose out of turn 2. Trying to duck all the way back down with about 5 laps to go this time by. Here comes Jonathan Oates down to the inside. He's also got a move on the fresh tires as well. They remain door to door. And Eric Heater now to the inside for the race lead. LaFaro blocking down. 5 laps to go from Charlotte. And no move made. Now it's all going to be about just bracing for impact. Heater to the bottom. Heater to the top. Heater to the race lead out of turn 2. And now LaFaro and Oates splitting 3 wide in turn 3. LaFaro for the lead, but Oates up top will make it stick. And Heater, after looking like he had the lead out of turn 2, it comes full circle. Jonathan Oates, 4 laps to go. And you got to think now for Heater, this could be the moment to try and hit the reset button, build some momentum, and be back on the charge. You ride on board with your current race leader. And now the gap continuing to spread. But remember, these two are on the same set of tires. They both have the same amount of grip. And they both can equally charge to the front. Peters and LaFaro now falling out of the conversation. Strayer has fallen into the top 5. As Jeffrey Belk will work for 6. No battles from there. 3 laps to go for Jonathan Oates. Going to try and take the laps down. And Eric Heater just a little bit slower that last time by, as Oates was one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack. And Jonathan Oates not a playoff driver. And there comes that discussion so many times about non-playoff drivers interfering with a playoff fight for the championship and just trying to end their season on a high note. Jonathan Oates was one of those drivers going into this race. Did not have a shot at the title, but had a shot for numerous race wins this season. And came up 11th in the point standings in the regular season. And with 2 laps to go, has a shot to take his first win in this CRL Cup Series season. Now the gap continues to remain through about half a second. Closed in by a 10th that last time by. But a caution out of nowhere. 3 laps to go. And we will be set in a green, white checkered. As I believe it might have been Brett Murphy who was on the inside of it all. There was Zachary Cox going around for position. I believe him and Josh Redden got involved in an incident. And now this completely changes the picture of this race. And we'll try to take a look, see exactly where things began. And there it is. It was between these two. 64-28. You'll see it here. This is coming to the exit of the quad oval. There's Josh Redden looking to the bottom, as Murphy was just a little bit squirrely, just trying to save his race car really for the most part, then gets right to the bottom of the 28. They both merge together, and that sends the 28 going around on the track. Well, it's been a rough night for both of these drivers, even with the 28 going up and around, tumbling over. I believe this is the first incident that he's had since that one. You see him go around there as Murphy has a look at that. We'll try to take on board look, as Olivier might have had trouble struggling with his race car. You see him here wiggling the car on the front straightaway. And then right about here is where he gets into Josh Redden. Oh, big hit for those two. And now what will this do for everybody up front? None of them decided to pit. And the one who does is the driver to third. Luke Lafaro will elect to pit this time by. He'll surge ahead of Oliveira. That's Luke Peters in the 16, also in that group. Lucas Strayer also went down pit road. Jeffrey Belk, Brian Fratian, playoff driver Jesse Atkinson. Bryn George also out of pit road. And Brett Murphy will receive an end-of-line penalty as a result of that incident. But now this changes things on its head. And you gotta wonder whether these two do not have any more tire sets. Remember, these drivers came with 3 extra tire sets from pit road to start this event. So they do have to strategize the amount that they use. And I'm sure these drivers were not expecting one to the end. With 3 laps to go, as the 73 could basically see the white flag. Now things will change. There's Francisco Bacallao down pit road, and this will mean even further for a playoff conversation, because we did talk about Heater and Lafaro. And now Lafaro, Oliveira, Peters, Atkinson, George, all of the playoff drivers who have a head start on fresh tires on this next restart. Boy, this could be very big for the Richmond race next week and how things will fare. So now we'll line things up once more. Remember, the choose cone rule will be in effect, so we'll see how Jonathan Oates plays this, because he can use the outside lane. You have Peter to his inside, get a good restart, but if everybody else behind them are on fresh tires, it's going to be about bracing for impact, much like Heater was doing at the front, or Lafaro was doing at the front of the field, rather. And now we'll see how things change. We'll see how this works for these guys behind. Whether Lafaro can come to the race lead and try to take his second win, and not only his second win of the season, but his second in a row on 1.5 milers, and mentioned a handful of times already his win at Legacy, Texas a couple weeks back. That was a last lap pass for the win. And it's all about leading that last lap. So for Lafaro, this could be another repeat scenario where he'll have a shot to win again. And with even more meaning, as he'll have the playoffs right in the midst of his hands and be able to take away what will be the playoff lead. Lights are out on the pace car. Both drivers will elect in the top 2 to go down low. Oliveira will be the next driver to use the top side, or be the only driver to use the top side, along with Luke Peters, Jeffrey Belk, Jesse Atkinson, while Heater, Oates, Lafaro, and Lucas Strayer go to the inside. We'll come to the green flag with 2 laps to go. We do have green-white checkers available, so if we do not get to the white flag in time and we get a yellow before we do so, we'll rack them up and do it all over again. Two drivers in this top 5 have grabbed at least 1 win this season. Heater having 4, Lafaro having 1. The rest having 0 and looking for their first, be it playoff driver or not. That's pretty much everybody in the top 5, apart from your race leader, our current playoff drivers running for the 2021 CRL Cup Series Championship. This could be our final restart of the evening. We'll just have to find out. Pace car making its way to the safety of pit road. Oates up and away, up the gears on the older tires, and we are back under green for maybe the final restart tonight. And quick though go, Oates with another solid start. But Heater just trying to fend off everybody down low. Luke Peters with a charge, and LaFaro pushing Oliveira out of the way. Here comes Peters now to the inside for second spot. Under Heater, he'll try the block, almost contact between the two. They'll stay clean. LaFaro will try to push down low. Oates gonna try and look for the white flag. Peters now to his door. The Mustang side by side. White flag in the air from Charlotte. And this is the last shot. Peters gonna surge ahead on the fresh tires, and LaFaro will chance to look under for the race lead side by side. Oates gets shuffled back to third, blocking all the way down to the racetrack. Now LaFaro comes for position. Final time through 3 and 4. And LaFaro surging ahead. Last time by, it was a win on the last lap at Texas. It'll be a last lap pass for the win. This time, Luke LaFaro wins from Charlotte. And a last lap maneuver from Luke Peters in a dramatic sequence of events. Second win of the season comes tonight. What a finish. And now LaFaro winning in the playoffs with a good shot now to move to Richmond with some breathing room. And what a finish though by the guys behind. Peters losing it on the last lap for second. Lucas Strayer coming home on fresh tires to third. Jonathan Oates on the older tires as well. He will end up fourth as Eric Heater actually fell to ninth on that restart to the end of that race, as LaFaro will burn it down in a remarkable way to win Texas. It's a remarkable way to win Charlotte. And we talk about March Madness, so he has been a creator of all the madness here tonight. Now we'll take one more look at that final start. And what a move it was. This was the run to the restart. This is about the white flag. Here's the restart. And this is where LaFaro sits. This is about the fourth spot to the inside. We saw him take that. And we were probably expecting Oliveira to have a good run, but did not have it enough. As you see, Peters and LaFaro on the freshest tires, just using that inside. Oliveira very loose up top. And all of a sudden, the 54, it basically just follows in the tracks of the 16. You see there was almost contact between the drivers in the top two. 16 and 10 almost made contact there. This was coming to the white flag. Peters takes a move to the inside. LaFaro at this point pretty much just following him. Following in his tracks on the fresh tires, clearing the way out. And then using this final run to turn two. Peters goes up wide. And that perfectly puts the space for LaFaro to grab down low. As everybody else was blocking even further down behind him. It was mayhem behind. And then into turn 3 and 4. On the fresh tires, we talked about how the top was so effective. But when you're on the fresh rubber, nothing means more than the bottom of the racetrack. And that's enough to grab his second win of the season. We'll try to see what happened to Eric Heater here, as he was riding right about here in the top 5. Where he ends up 9th at the start-finish line. You see him here with Lucas Strayer gets around for position. And Jeffrey Belk, I believe, also on fresh tires, tries to go for position. He tries to look up top. And Heater tries to block. You see just not enough. Everybody else getting the best runs. Heater on the oldest tires. There's Jesse Atkinson for position. They actually made contact and went around there into Brian Fretian. And Atkinson stays one position behind. But LaFaro taking it all with a win from the Charlotte Motor Speedway in a last lap remarkable dash to end it all. Now we'll try to head to victory lane and speak with the driver of the 54. Able to walk away with the race win at the end of it all. The 54 of Luke LaFaro wins from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll try to bring him in from victory lane and talk with your race winner. We'll see if he's anywhere here from victory lane, but I don't believe he is. Well, at least for now, he's not sitting within the top 3, so I don't believe we'll have a chance to interview our race winner, Luke LaFaro. However, we do have other drivers within the top 3, and that includes Luke Peters. Actually, now we do have Luke LaFaro, so now we have a race winner. We'll talk to him from victory lane, and we'll bring in the driver of the 54, his second win in 2021, in again a last lap dash to the finish. And this was probably one of the more wilder situations for you because now things are hiding from the playoffs. You have all these competitors around you. It was a race where you were running comfortably within top 5, had a good shot multiple times to the lead. And now on this final restart on the fresh tires, you get it done. Walk us through that entire sequence, first of all.
That was a... Hello?
Hello, yes, we've got you.
Okay. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, that was a crazy sequence of events there. I mean, that restart I was so like, all over the place. It was crazy. And coming to the choose cone, I chose the bottom, which I probably shouldn't have done, but obviously it worked out. But at the time, I was pretty mad at myself because I was like, I should have just gone to the top. But it ended up working out. And then when Peter slipped the track a little bit, that was my opportunity to pass him. So I was like, I'm gonna send it in turn 3, full throttle. If I don't stick it, I don't stick it. And luckily, I stuck it, and I won the race. Oh, it's a major help, just to start the playoffs off with a win. It's that gives me max amount of points, and that should help me through the playoffs. Consistency, I mean, I got the win. Obviously, I'd like to win the next 2 races, but just if I don't win, just run well. Can't afford bad races because even if I did win, I still, there's still things could go wrong and very quick. So I just got to run really consistent these next couple races before the final 4. Yeah, so I'd like to thank my parents for letting me race. I would like to thank my teammates over at Shadow and Supermax Racing, and I would like to thank you for broadcasting. You do a good job. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so early on, I got caught up in that wreck around like lap 30, I think. That kind of sent me back, but I mean, we were still able to. I was still able to get back on the lead lap, and then at the end of the race, on the last lap, I in like turn 1, I kind of dove it in there too hard, and then slid up, and that gave room for the far on. But no, it's okay. No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm happy with that because I think I'll have a shot at I just need to get like not wreck in the next races, and then um I think I might have a shot at the championship, but I don't know. I don't like it, and I'm bad at it. My team, Shadow Racing, and my parents are letting me race. Thank you.
Well, so like I knew Heater and Oates were on old tires, so I kind of forgot about them. Actually, I knew they were on old tires, but I wasn't paying attention to them. I was watching where Oliveira restarted because he was on 2 tires, so I didn't know if he was going to go or not. So I picked the opposite line of him just to realize I lined up behind all the cars with old tires, so that wasn't fun. Restart, got like kind of a messy restart, but I was able to fight off a 55 at the end of turn 2. And then whole last lap, I knew I was like, okay, I just got to pass Heater and Oates on old tires, and hopefully LaFaro and the 16 can wreck each other, and I can just steal the win like I did in Bristol. But they didn't wreck each other, and I sent in on them. But yeah, like we said, like you re-raced the Roval here, and ironically, in both races, my car ended up backwards at some point. I am in the playoffs. I just messed up the banner. It's all good. Yeah, I have it set on trading paints for the banner. It just didn't show today, but yeah. So good race for the playoffs. Yeah, I'm hoping I can have a shot for at least make it to the final 4, so I have a shot. So other playoff drivers had some issues today, so I'll take those points to the bank, and I'll fix my banner for next week. First off, you're all good, my man. I messed up the banner, so you had no way of knowing. In all honesty, I'm terrible at shooting tracks. I won Bristol by pure miracle and luck. So, my plan for Martinsville is to literally survive and hopefully everyone else crashes. So, basically the same plan I have for Bristol, and it worked out for me. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm expecting my car to be backwards at Martinsville too. So, I'm expecting to be backwards at Talladega. So I'm expecting to wreck a lot, but hopefully we can. Hopefully this is the one finish where I can milk these points to the final 4. I'll give a shout out to my sponsors of Sean Howell Design on Trading Paints and Grit Marketing. Love the support they give me, and just the guys I was talking to and 2K chat. Those guys are awesome. I know I'm going to be racing other leagues with them, so hopefully it all works out for the best and we all keep having fun. Thanks, my dude. Thanks for doing these broadcasts.